The morning air in this little hidden valley in the Pyrenees had a particular kind of magic to it. We'd found the spot late last night, a small, grassy pull-off by a stream that chuckled like a contented old friend. Sunlight, still shy, was just beginning to paint the peaks opposite us in hues of rose and gold. I took a deep breath, the scent of pine and damp earth filling my lungs. This was it. This was the why of it all. Mark was already up, of course. I could hear the rhythmic hiss of the small gas stove from inside the Wanderer, our trusty camper van, and soon the rich aroma of coffee began to wrestle with the pine. "Morning, sleepyhead," he called out, his voice cheerful, as I stretched by the van door. Or should I say, "Bonjour, Madame la Revieuse." I grinned. "Bonjour, Monsieur Café Maker. Any sign of those wild goats the farmer told us about yesterday?" "Not yet," Mark replied, emerging with 2 steaming mugs. "But the day is young. And speaking of days, and what they hold, we've got a bit of a special assignment today, don't we?" I took my mug, the warmth seeping into my hands. "Ah, yes. The assignment. It feels a bit like preparing for an exam I didn't know I was studying for all these years. We've been getting so many comments on our channel, so many lovely questions from people, especially those around our age, contemplating a similar shift from the conventional to the nomadic. They asked about budgets, about routes, about courage, but one question kept popping up, simple yet profound: what are the absolute, can't live without them items in the van? "Well," Mark said, taking a sip of his coffee and gazing at the mountains. "If anyone's qualified to answer that, it's you, Karen. You're the queen of practical magic in this tin box on wheels. I just drive it and eat the snacks." "Hardly," I chuckled. "But I have given it some serious thought. It's surprisingly difficult to narrow it down. When we first started, the things we thought were indispensable. The miniature food processor, the full set of encyclopedias, kidding on that last one, mostly. But we definitely overpacked." "Understatement of the decade," Mark laughed. "Remember trying to find a place for that inflatable kayak for the first 6 months? Used it twice." "Exactly. So, today, the mission, should I choose to accept it," I said, striking a mock-serious pose, "is to share my definitive, non-negotiable, top 5 must-have items for thriving in van life, especially when you're embracing adventure after 50. We decided to film it properly, a dedicated segment. It felt important to share what we'd learned through trial, error, and countless miles. "Right then," Mark said, finishing his coffee. "Let's get the camera set up. Do you want the grand mountain backdrop, or the cozy chaos of the Wanderer's interior?" "A bit of both, I think," I decided. Some things are best shown in their natural habitat. I took a final, appreciative look at the awakening valley. This life, this freedom, it was built on a foundation of small, practical choices, as much as grand dreams. And today, we were going to talk about some of those small, mighty choices. "Okay, Mark, let's roll. Or, well, let's hit record." So, we propped the little camera on its flexible tripod, positioning it on the small fold-out table just inside the van's open sliding door. This gave us a view of me, sitting on the edge of our bench seat, with that stunning Pyrenean landscape peeking over my shoulder. Perfect. Mark gave me a thumbs up from behind the camera. "All right everyone," I began, trying to sound as natural as if I were chatting with a friend over coffee, which, in a way, I was. As Mark mentioned, we've had a lot of questions about the gear that really makes a difference for us out here on the road. It's not always the flashiest stuff, or the most expensive, but these are the things that, for me, have proven their worth time and time again. So, item number 1 on Karen's list of van life essentials, I reached beside me into a specially designated cubby. "Drumroll, please," Mark quipped softly. I pulled it out and held it up. Is this magnificent piece of engineering, a really good, versatile multi-tool? It wasn't just any multi-tool, it was a Leatherman Wave, a model Mark had gifted me years ago, and it had become like an extension of my hand. "This little beauty," I continued, unfolding the pliers, then flicking out the main blade, has got us out of more minor scrapes than I can count. It's got pliers, wire cutters, a decent knife, a saw, a file, and a fantastic set of interchangeable screwdriver bits. That last part is key. Mark leaned into the shot slightly. She's not kidding about those screwdriver bits. Remember that tiny village in the Italian Dolomites, Karen? The one where the road was barely wider than the Wanderer. Oh, vividly. I exclaimed. We'd parked for the night, and I was making dinner. Suddenly, the latch on one of our overhead cupboards, the one with all the tins and jars, just gave way. The screws had vibrated loose on those mountain roads. I demonstrated with my hands how the cupboard door was sagging precariously. Everything was on the verge of launching itself across the van with the next bump. And trust me, Italian country roads can be very bumpy. It would have been a symphony of smashed glass and tomato sauce, Mark added grimly. Exactly. But, I tapped the multi-tool. This little hero had the perfect Phillips head bit. Within 5 minutes, even in the fading light, I'd managed to tighten those screws, and even found a slightly longer spare screw in my little bits and bobs tin to make it more secure. Disaster averted. Dinner was saved. Marriage was saved, probably. We both chuckled at that. It's funny how these small items prevent small stresses from escalating. A broken cupboard might seem trivial, but on the road, little irritations can magnify. This tool was a master de-escalator. So, yes, I summarized, folding the multi-tool neatly back into its sheath. A robust, reliable multi-tool. Don't leave home, or your van, without one. Now, for item number 2. I reached for it, a sleek, stainless steel cylinder. This, my friends, is my beloved, indestructible, perfectly insulated travel mug, or flask, depending on what I'm using it for. It wasn't just any flask. This one was a particular brand known for its almost magical ability to maintain temperature. It seems like such a simple thing, doesn't it? I mused, holding it up. But the comfort this brings is immense. We're often in places where the weather can change on a dime. Waking up on a frosty morning, like we did in the Scottish Highlands last autumn, and being able to pour a genuinely piping hot coffee from this flask, hours after making it, is just a small slice of heaven. Mark nodded in agreement. Or after a long, sweaty hike in somewhere like Death Valley, opening this to find your water is still refreshingly cold. It's a game changer for morale. Precisely. I said. It's not just about the drink itself, it's about that moment of comfort, that little bit of personal luxury, no matter where you are. I've used it for hot soup on a windy clifftop, for iced tea on a sweltering beach in Greece. It's tough, it doesn't leak, a critical feature in a moving vehicle, and it just does its job perfectly, every single day. This isn't just a mug, it's a companion. I recalled one particularly bleak, rain-lashed afternoon in Ireland, parked by a windswept coast. We couldn't go out, visibility was nil. But sharing a flask of hot chocolate, watching the storm rage from the cozy confines of the Wanderer, turned a potentially miserable day into a memorable one. Simple, but vital. Okay, I continued, feeling like I was getting into the rhythm of this show and tell. Moving on from the practical and the comforting to something for the mind. Item number 3. I carefully retrieved it from its protective sleeve. My trusty e-reader. I held up the slim black rectangle. Now, I am, and always have been, a lover of physical books. The smell of the paper, the weight in my hands, but when you live in roughly 70 square feet, something has to give. Mark chuckled from behind the camera. I remember the initial book cull. It was traumatic. For both of us. We looked like we were trying to start a mobile library, but a very disorganized 1-inch. He's right, I admitted. We had stacks of them. They took up valuable space, added weight, and honestly, I'd read them once and then they'd just be there. The e-reader was a revelation. This little device, I patted it affectionately, holds thousands of books. Thousands. I can carry an entire library with me, and it weighs less than a single paperback. I turned it on, the screen glowing softly. And for those of us whose eyesight isn't quite what it was in our 20s, I said with a smile, the adjustable font size is a blessing. Plus, the built-in backlight means I can read in bed without having a bright lamp on, so Mark can sleep if he's tired from a long drive. A feature for which I am eternally grateful, Mark chimed in. My beauty sleep is very important. Indeed, I laughed. But seriously, the e-reader has been a sanity saver on countless occasions. Those inevitable rainy days when you're cooped up, or long evenings when you're parked somewhere remote with no internet. Or even just for an hour before bed to unwind. I can download new books whenever we hit a Wi-Fi spot, subscribe to digital magazines, even borrow e-books from my old library back home. It's an escape, an education, entertainment, all in one compact package. We were once pinned down by an unseasonal snowstorm in the Julian Alps for 3 days. The roads were impassable. While Mark strategized our escape and monitored weather reports, I devoured 2 historical novels and a biography. It turned what could have been a very frustrating wait into a cozy reading retreat. Now, for item number 4, I said, a new wave of enthusiasm in my voice. This one is about connecting with the world around us, about appreciating the details. I reached for a small, sturdy case and opened it to reveal a pair of compact, but clearly high-quality, binoculars. A good pair of binoculars. I explained, when we first started Vanlife, we had a cheap, plastic pair. You know the type, things look a bit blurry, a bit distant, and you're never quite sure if you're seeing what you think you're seeing. We'd be squinting at a bird on a branch or a distant mountain peak, and it was underwhelming. Mark added, it was like watching wildlife documentaries on a tiny, fuzzy black and white television from the 1950s. Exactly. I agreed. Then, for my birthday one year, Mark surprised me with these. I held them up. And the difference was astounding. Suddenly, that distant bird resolved into a European bee-eater with its incredible plumage. That vague shape on a faraway hillside became a chamois delicately picking its way across the scree. The world just snapped into focus, literally. These weren't just for wildlife, though. We used them for scouting out potential park-up spots from a distance, I elaborated, checking out the conditions of a hiking trail across a valley, or even just getting a closer look at architectural details on old buildings in towns we visit. They enhance our appreciation of landscapes, bringing distant features into intimate view. It's like having a superpower. You see more, you understand more, you connect more. We were in Portugal, in the Alentejo region, and I spotted a huge nest on top of a ruined chimney stack. Through the binoculars, we could see it was a stork's nest, and then, a parent stork flew in to feed its chicks. Without these, I patted the binoculars, it would have just been a messy blob on a chimney. With them, it was a moment of pure National Geographic magic, right from our van window. This investment, I stressed, paid dividends in wonder every single day. And now, I said, pausing for dramatic effect, we come to item number 5. My final, and perhaps slightly unexpected, must-have. This one isn't about fixing things, or drinking coffee, or reading, or even seeing things miles away. This one is about pure, unadulterated comfort and creating a sense of home, wherever we happen to be. I reached down and pulled up a neatly folded object. As I unfolded it, it revealed itself to be a lightweight, yet robust-looking, camp chair. "Ta-da!" I announced, holding it aloft. A really good, comfortable, packable camp chair. And not just one, of course, we have a matching pair. Mark let out an appreciative, "Oh, yes." The throne, from off-camera. Precisely. I grinned. It might seem mundane, but let me tell you, after years on the road, the value of a truly comfortable chair that you can set up in seconds, anywhere, cannot be overstated. When we started, we had those flimsy little tripod stools. Utterly miserable. Then we graduated to slightly better, but still backbreaking, cheap folding chairs. I shuddered at the memory. Then we found these. I quickly demonstrated how easily it unfolded and locked into place, its fabric seat and supportive back looking genuinely inviting. These are a game changer. They're lightweight enough to carry a short distance, they pack down relatively small, but most importantly, they are incredibly comfortable and supportive. For people like us, who are no longer in our athletic prime, shall we say, having good back support is crucial if you want to sit outside for more than 10 minutes. Mark joined me in the frame then, grabbing his own identical chair and setting it up beside mine. "She's absolutely right," he said, sinking into it with a contented sigh. "Think about it. How many hours do we spend sitting outside the Wanderer? Enjoying our morning coffee, reading a book in the afternoon sun, watching the sunset with a glass of wine, chatting around a small campfire if we're allowed one. These chairs transform any patch of dirt, any scenic overlook, any quiet lakeside into our personal living room, our front porch." "That's the perfect way to put it," I agreed. "It's about extending our living space. The van is cozy, but it's still a van. Being able to comfortably exist outside the van, to truly inhabit the beautiful places we find ourselves in, that's where these chairs shine." I remember one evening in particular, in northern Norway. We'd found a spot overlooking a fjord, and the northern lights started to dance. We wrapped ourselves in blankets, settled into these chairs with a flask of tea, and just watched in awe for hours. If we'd been perched uncomfortably on rocks or those awful old stools, the magic would have been diminished. But in these, we were just, blissfully comfortable, completely absorbed in the spectacle. I gestured to the 5 items, which I'd now arranged on the small table. The multi-tool, the flask, the e-reader, the binoculars, and one of the folded camp chairs. "So, there you have it," I said, a sense of satisfaction settling over me. Karen's top 5. The multi-tool for practical problem solving. The insulated flask for daily comfort. The e-reader for mental escape and expansion. The binoculars for engaging with the wonders of the world. And the camp chair for simply being present and comfortable in those wonders. Mark put an arm around my shoulder. A pretty comprehensive list for ensuring that the wanderer remains a joyful one. It's amazing how these few things can make such a profound difference to the quality of life on the road. He picked up the multi-tool. "This one saved my bacon a few times too, not just yours." We turned off the camera for a moment, the formal part of our little show and tell complete. I let out a breath. It felt good to articulate why these particular things mattered so much. Mark started to pack the camera gear away carefully. I picked up my insulated mug, which still had some warm herbal tea in it from breakfast, and took a sip. "It's interesting, isn't it?" I mused, looking out at the sun-drenched peaks. When you consciously choose to live with less, each item you do choose takes on so much more significance. It's not just an object, it's a solution, a comfort, a key to an experience. Mark nodded, carefully coiling a cable. Every one of those 5 things has probably enabled hundreds of good memories, or smoothed over dozens of potential frustrations. It's that old saying, isn't it? The right tool for the job, and in van life, the job is living well, every day, no matter what the road throws at you. I think what these items really represent, I continued, is a blend of self-sufficiency and intentional comfort. When we were younger, maybe we wouldn't have prioritized a comfortable chair so highly, or we might have roughed it more with basic gear. But now, in our 50s and beyond, we appreciate that looking after our well-being, both physical and mental, is paramount if we want this lifestyle to be sustainable and joyful in the long term. It wasn't about being soft, it was about being smart, about conserving energy for the adventures themselves, not wasting it on unnecessary discomforts or solvable problems. These items weren't about accumulating possessions, they were about facilitating freedom. The multi-tool meant we were less reliant on finding a garage for every minor fix. The flask meant we could linger longer in beautiful, remote spots without needing to find a cafe. The e-reader meant a world of stories without the burden of physical books. The binoculars opened up layers of the landscape we'd otherwise miss. And the chairs, well, the chairs were about savoring it all. This journey, I said, more to myself than to Mark, though he was listening, is about living fully. And for us, living fully means being prepared, being comfortable enough to truly relax and absorb our surroundings, and being equipped to engage with the world with curiosity and wonder. These 5 items, in their own small ways, helped us do exactly that. They weren't just stuff, they were integral parts of our mobile ecosystem, tools that helped us navigate not just the roads, but the daily rhythm of life in the wanderer. Before we had the van, our house was filled with so many things. Closets overflowing, a garage packed with items we barely remembered owning, let alone using. Now, every single thing inside the wanderer has to justify its existence, its footprint. It has to earn its passage. And these 5, they've earned their keep 1,000 times over. They reflect a shift in priorities from quantity to quality, from passive ownership to active utility. Being able to fix a loose handle, or identify a rare bird, or lose yourself in a good book on a rainy day, or simply sit in comfort watching the world go by, Mark commented, joining me at the van door. Those are the building blocks of contentment out here. It means we're not constantly battling minor annoyances. We can focus on the bigger picture, on the experience itself. And that, I think, is the key takeaway. I agreed. It's not about a specific brand or a definitive list that everyone must follow. It's about consciously choosing what supports your way of traveling, your comfort, your ability to engage with the adventure. For us, after all these miles, all these countries, all these ups and downs, these 5 items form a sort of bedrock for our daily life on the road. They help us stay resilient, keep our spirits up, and make sure we're making the most of every single precious day. There was a deep satisfaction in that thought, a quiet confidence that came from knowing we had what we truly needed. Mark switched the camera back on, framing us both in the doorway of the wanderer, the magnificent Pyrenean vista behind us. So, he said, looking at the lens, that's Karen's curated collection of indispensable van life treasures. Hopefully, it's given some of you who are dreaming or planning your own adventures a few practical ideas, or at least sparked some thoughts about what your must-haves might be. Absolutely, I chimed in. And speaking of putting some of this gear to good use, especially those binoculars, tomorrow we're planning to drive deeper into the Parc National des Pyrénées. We've heard whispers from other travelers about a particular valley where griffon vultures circle on the thermals, and if we're really lucky, maybe even a glimpse of an izzard, the Pyrenean chamois. Those binoculars are definitely going to be working overtime. A smile touched my lips as I thought of the day ahead, another small adventure waiting to unfold. It's really all about finding what works for you, isn't it? I continued, addressing our unseen audience. This lifestyle, especially after 50, is about crafting a way of living that brings you joy and fulfillment, not about adhering to someone else's rules or packing list. These items just happen to be what helps us live our version of that joy. Mark gave a little wave. So, we hope this was helpful, or at least a little bit interesting. We always say this journey is about 1 mile and 1 story at a time, and sometimes those stories are about the little things that make the big adventures possible. We'd genuinely love to hear from you all in the comments below, I added, feeling that familiar warmth of connection to our community. What are your absolute, can't leave home without items when you travel, whether it's in a van, a caravan, a tent, or just a suitcase? What makes your adventures smoother, more comfortable, or more memorable? Share your wisdom. Until next time, Mark said, his arm resting comfortably on my shoulder, keep those dreams polished and your sense of adventure tuned up. And remember, I finished, with our now familiar sign-off, keep living fully, 1 mile, 1 story at a time. Thanks for joining us today, everyone.